for reporting subway performance, including revisions to terminal on-time performance, weight assessment, and new key performance indicators. And we indicated that, as you recall, over a 2-month period earlier in the year, we indicated to the board that we would be making changes to those measures, and we reached out to stakeholders and concerned groups that work on those, and we didn't really have time on the agenda last month to discuss them. So I'm asking Carmen Bianco and Peter Caffiero, as they go through the subway performance report, to highlight those new measures. Carmen?
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. What I'd like to do, I know that the members of the committee have been briefed both in May and June on the new performance indicators and that we have adopted, but what I'd like to do is just quickly review that and also incorporate into that the monthly performance report. Just very quickly, there's two fundamental purposes for moving to new performance indicators. One is to focus on factors critical for the reliability of service, and certainly the second issue is to be closer to the needs of our customers. So what's changed as we look at the new performance indicators? First of all, we revised terminal on-time performance. Now it reflects all delays and the schedule from the schedule and service plan in effect. So it drops the distinction between absolute and controllable, but it also incorporates issues such as sick passengers or police activities. So that's one change. The second change is around weight assessment, and we've really tightened the standard and made it more stringent. So in the former, where we had the schedule or the headway plus 2 minutes peak, 4 minutes off peak, today it's the headway plus 25%. So again, across almost every single line, it is more stringent. We are also measuring weight assessment on weekends, and for the lines 1 through 6, we're using the ATS to draw that data. We'll also talk about some new key performance indicators. There are two that we'll talk about. One involves service, which combines into one score, on-time performance, weight assessment, and mean distance between failure, essentially measuring reliability. And the second one, passenger environment survey, which measures appearance, equipment, and information both on board the cars and in our stations. The review of the weekday on-time performance for August 2010. On this chart, you will see the old way that it was calculated, which is the solid blue bar, and the revised, which is the broken red bar. And essentially, the performance for the month of August, system-wide weekday, was 87.6%. That's down 0.5% from 88.1% in August of 2009. And again, this reflects the service plan in effect at the time. Although it's not shown on the chart, the system-wide weekend on-time performance was 81.5%, which was down 10% from 90.5% in August 2009. The impacts of the revised weekday weight assessment, again, tighten the standards to headway plus 25% instead of the former of 2 minutes and 4 minutes. The 12-month rolling average for system-wide weekday weight assessment was 78.6% in August 2010. That's up 1.5% from 77.4% in August of 2009. This is our service KPI, and it combines three factors, if you will: weekday weight assessment, weekday on-time performance, and a monthly mean distance between failure into a single score. The system-wide service KPI was 83.4% in August 2010. That's up 1.7% from 82% in August of 2009. Yes, sir.
You gave the weekend on-time performance figure a couple of minutes ago.
Yes, sir.
A train that is doing something completely different on the weekend, is that taken into account, or it's taken out of the mix?
No, we use the schedule that train's riding on. So if there's a supplement schedule, that's the schedule we're going
So
with.
Even if it's on another route,
yes,
it's counted as... Okay, thank you.
Last month at our committee meeting, there was some questions around what is in the passenger environment survey, and what do we look at as we look at the indicators both in the stations or on the cars itself. So we developed this chart just so you could see that. I think the question was really specifically on stations, would it include peeling paint and missing tile, and the answer is no. But anyway, the chart generally just reflects what's in that KPI.
I'd like to state at this point, the chairman has asked us specifically to look at the issue of peeling paint, not only as it relates to a performance standard of measure, but what action should we be taking to deal with that. And they could be anything from as simple as scraping it so you don't see the peeling, and scraping it and repainting it, doing so within the environmental requirements that we have to maintain. But it is an issue that we just cannot let go unattended because it does degrade the appearance of the station in the customer's eyes.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were holding ourselves to a pretty tight standard in terms of how many pounds we could reduce in a given month, but now we're going to increase that so we can be a little bit more aggressive with the scraping of paint.
In the case of where the peeling paint is due to a water problem, that's a much more serious issue, and how do you deal with that one?
We've really got to, trace the water problem, try to get it corrected. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just...
Otherwise, you're covering it up, and then a week later, it's...
You're just going to keep going back.
It's a combination of fixing the leak and also moving to, believe it or not, latex paints instead of oil-based paints. Oil-based paints do not do well in a water environment, and they will peel as fast as you scrape and repaint them.
One of the things that were interesting over the summer where we were scraping, you would scrape, and then 3 days later you'd go back and you'd find, the edge around the area where you've just finished the job. It's now peeling again. So what happens is the humidity gets back under there. So we have to figure out a way to seal that or repaint it, and that's what we're working on. The system-wide passenger environment survey was 92% in August of 2010. That's up 0.9% from 91.2 in August of 2009. And for Staten Island, they don't have a KPI for service, obviously, because weight assessment is not something they need to focus on. It's really about getting the trains to the boat, meeting the boats. So really, terminal on-time performance becomes much more of a key indicator for them. But in terms of the PES KPI, it was 88.7%. That's up 0.5% from 88.2 in August of 2009. And finally, mean distance between failure for the month of August was 146,705 miles. That's up 27.2% from 115,372 in August of 2009. The 12-month average was 169,680 miles, up 24.7% from 136,117 miles. That concludes my report.
Carmen, I have to say, I'm looking at this, and I feel like I'm riding a completely different subway system. I mean, 92 people are saying that the condition is 92%? Is that effectively what this is saying? The environment is...
This is just...
go back to that slide if you can.
I think this is it.
That one's really relevant. This is... at the moment, the PES, which previous to this was reported every 6 months in a pretty dense report that didn't get a lot of focus, and I think the positive thing here is we're bringing this out every month now. Now, the question we need to address is, are these all the right indicators? These are historical ones that we've looked at for the last probably 15 years or more. What we measure is, and these are operations planning employees doing random sampling throughout the system with pretty strict criteria. We can come and show you the presentation at some point about what our training is, what they're looking for. But litter, it's heavy litter, light litter, no litter. It'll fail. An element will fail if there's a bottle or water on the ground or something like that. So
let me stop you because maybe you have to dial back a little bit. Who is going out and getting all of these statistics?
These are operations planning traffic checkers who do this and have been doing this for many years. So they're not part of the operating department. They're somewhat independent in that way. So it's an internal
measure.
An internal group. It's not a query of customers or anything like that.
And you're fanning out throughout the system.
Correct. And random times of the day or in random locations. And we build up over the course of 12 months this significant sample by line. But as we pointed out here, it doesn't include many of the things that many of our customers would count as condition or appearance of the station. Peeling paint, tiles have not been measured, nor have we measured clearly structural things. We don't have the people measuring this don't have the qualifications to look at that. But certainly one of the things we're talking about are perhaps adding different indicators such as lighting, such as starting to measure the public address system that's in the next train indicators to make sure that those are working. A number of these measures address problems that were issues 20 years ago, station agents in uniform, things like that, we're measuring close to 100% on many of them. So there's things that we can work on. And one of the things I committed, I think, last month, which we didn't deliver this month, is to get those terms a little more descriptive of what they are. So condition, by next month, we'll have a somewhat more descriptive term for what those things actually are.
I mean, the climate, for example, you've probably ridden in a car and you've seen a picture of a thermostat up near the air conditioning duct. That's where they go and actually take a thermometer, and it has to be within a certain range for it to pass or fail in terms of the climate in the car. Right, so we try to provide as much objectivity as possible with our own resources.
When are you going to ask for or solicit ideas for station conditions to put into this?
Right now we have how many major complexes in the program?
19.
19. There's I think 2 major complexes in each borough, a total of 19 stations, and that was what we committed to in terms of doing the enhanced cleaning at those stations. I think it would be appropriate at that time, Andrew, to come back to the board or this committee with not only the results of what we're doing at those stations, but get your feedback in terms of how you want to measure it.
I guess I was under when we did a press conference a long time ago at 205th Street, Norwood, and saw all these incredible conditions. We were told that station actually passed because the lighting was good, so I thought lighting was actually an existing condition that you've measured, but obviously it isn't in stations. It's only in subway cars. And then there was bad handrails on stairs. There was condition of stairs, and litter is just a snapshot in time, isn't it? I mean,
sure, absolutely.
Litter could be 1 hour ago it wasn't there, and all of a sudden it's there. I think the condition of the walls, ponding conditions, litter on the tracks. I mean, all of these kinds of things should be part of the evaluation, don't you?
We agree, but we'll come back to you when we get the results of those 19 complexes. One of the things I'm very, very, I don't want to say reluctant, I want to approach it at the right time, is if we turn our customers on to reporting defects against some standard, I need to know that we can be able to respond to them in terms of what action we're taking, but also correct the condition. So, and it's much the same as how we attacked graffiti years ago, which is as you bring a particular station up to a certain standard, that's when you implement the program with reporting by other people. Otherwise, we'd be expending a lot of resources all over the entire system. Right now, we're doing this within the confines of our budget at those 19 stations.
So if this team that's going out now to look at these indicators finds something really terrible, like finds a ceiling caving in or a huge puddle of water or something like that, is it reported or is it not reported?
Oh, it is reported, but we have far greater number of reporting sources other than this program to report those conditions.
Okay. Like line managers and things.
The chairman, board members that write. No, I'm serious. We get reports on a daily basis. One of the advantages of these is that not only do you get a text message, you get a photograph.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. And so what we do is we respond to those, especially the worst case conditions where we've got water pouring into a station, for example.
So you're turning me loose, huh?
I
thought you were already.
I thought you were already.
You were constrained. How many people do you have doing around these teams, and how many do they do a day? I mean, we used to when I was at the city, I used to do this all the time. I mean, I had guys, literally 15 guys every day. That's all they did. I mean, so what sort of sample size do you get a month? And how many do you have?
Peter, can you answer that?
Al Reddy, who's in charge of that, is coming up right now. If you could just grab a mic and just answer. Push the red button.
We have around 25 people work for the PS environment thing. So
I'm sorry?
25 people.
And that's all full-time? That's all they do all day?
They're part-time because they're different shifts. They go all through whole day, night and
right.
day.
And how many stations do you get a month?
Per month. See, we kind of measure this sample based on quarterly. So that's what we used to report quarterly basis. In quarter, we cover all the stations, 465 stations.
So you cover every station 4 times a year?
Yeah, 4 times a year. twice. In other words, we
The other three stations?
Yeah, there's 468.
four times a year, once during daytime and once in the early morning, like 4 a.m. before the peak hour.
The early morning one was actually, to your point, Andrew, and you sounded there like some of the feedback we get over the years from the operating departments when they say, well, how can you hold us to the standard on litter because there's not much we can do about it, versus it is our job to make sure the stations are clean. So we measure before the morning rush, which reflects what the overnight shift should have cleaned in the station before the bulk of the customers come, and then after the AM or during the AM rush when most of the people are seeing it, but we do have people unfortunately littering during that period. And we also do measure the track bed separately from the station itself because it is much more difficult to get the track clean.
If I could go on another subject, it sounded as though the MDF was going in the right direction pretty well. Why?
The MDF?
Yeah.
It's just how the cars are behaving.
But it's also, this is the two best times of the year to run a car are in the spring or in the fall when you're in this temperature cycle and this precipitation cycle.
But you were talking about August.
We're talking about August here, and
it just sounded as though we were headed in the right direction, and I was wondering why. Is it that the proportion of cars that's new?
it's the fleet. It's the fleet age, yes, and the fleet is behaving quite well. As a matter of fact, I think I reported on it last month, and August was a record month in terms of heat. But even across the fleet on the AC, I think we were like 98.5%. I mean, we were way up there. So the fleet, it's the forces, the way it's being maintained, the maintenance programs that we have, I think all of that comes together.
It's the SMS program.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. Once you replace half your fleet, overhaul half of it, now we're replacing, majority of the fleet's replaced, it's the SMS program. I mean, it is something we're looking at doing for other elements of the system because you're trying to replace components before they fail, before the end of their useful life.
Our job right now is going to be maintaining that and keeping it there. Because it's really in a great place, and we just need to work hard to make sure it stays there.
Any other questions for Carmen? Yes.
There's a lot of discussion about the stations, but as subway cars go, not the environment, but reliability and also the way you keep the statistics. Is that going to change the way the system is run, especially when there are delays? In other words, you've changed the way we're going to evaluate the quality of service to the passenger. If that drops off, is there going to be a change the way we might operate our system? In other words, will there be less battery runs, more battery runs? That type of thing is what I'm asking. Or would we just...
Well, battery run is a strategy you employ when you have a major system delay and you have a large gap in service in relation to the interval. So that is strictly dependent upon the number of incidents like that you have. There's a direct correlation with there's an inverse relationship with MDBF increasing and the number of those incidents decreasing. And we don't do battery runs as much as we used to. I mean, I don't think we've done battery runs on a regular basis for years, but we will do them occasionally. With the automatic train supervision on the A division, you have the ability to do more of those types of things. In terms of how you respond to service delays when they occur in the system. But the MDBF increasing reduces the likelihood of us having to do that.
Well, I meant just generally how you would run. We were counting on-time performance by the terminal, and now we're not. We're going to do less. Well, we have indicators that do different types of things here. And I'm just wondering if we look at the indicators and say, should we run trains in a different way?
One of the things that we're very conscious and working hard to do is not get away from terminal on-time performance, because we certainly don't want to do that. But what we really want to spend a lot of time talking about are the strategies that allow the evenness in the service to take in. I mean, that's really what counts for our customers, and if we tell them a train's going to be there every 5 minutes, we really need to work on that. Even if that to some degree degrades the train reaching the terminal on time. I'm much more concerned about the evenness, but we won't let up on the ends either. So,
this is a very big, complex subject, and I, for one, would love to learn a little bit more about how we manage service and mitigate delays. So if you could perhaps think of a time when we could wedge a presentation on that subject into this committee, I think we'd all benefit.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay.
Safety, Cheryl Kennedy.
Okay, moving on to safety. The subway customer accident rate decreased by 29.3% in July, and the 12-month average also decreased 9.7% compared to a year ago. The employee lost time accident rate was down 27.4% in August, and the 12-month average rate also decreased by 2.8% compared to the previous year. The number of confirmed fires was down 24.4% during August. They were also down 2.4% over the last 12 months. Also in July, all fires were categorized as being low or average in severity.
Crime, Chief Diaz.
Good morning. Again, robberies are down at the end of the month of September. We were down at year-to-date. At the end of September, we were down. However, we're still seeing the same experience we saw in August with grand larcenies. Grand larcenies were up for the month of September and up year-to-date. Again, that's attributable to the grand larcenies we discussed at the last time, a lot of it involving cell phone snatches. However, if you look at our numbers, we're averaging this year 5.7 crimes a day. Last year, it was 5.5. It's still the second lowest number of crimes since 1990.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do. One. This doesn't include Staten Island Rapid Transit.
No, it does not.
Yeah, well, I just noted if the early bird gets the Staten Island report, if you go to the Metro North Long Island Railroad meeting, you get that. So it just seems I just think maybe someone would want to include that in this report because I don't think Metro North Long Island Railroad.
I didn't even know it was in there.
I think that's appropriate. Yeah, let's get that.
Point.
Let's get that in.
Yeah, unfortunately for us, the New York City Transit Police Bureau does not cover the Staten Island lines.
But operationally, we cover Staten Island here.
Yeah, and I think the reason it's in there is because MTA Police are responsible for the two commuter railroads and Staten Island, but we will make it as part of our report. Yes, exactly. It's a good point.
Thank you, Ira.
Finance, preliminary August fare box revenue was $279.4 million, $0.3 million above the forecast. Average non-student fare in August was $1.49, and in constant 1996 dollars, the August average fare fell from $1.38 in 1996 to $1.03 in 2010. Yes.
Why don't we put that on every sign in the subway?
It's like the two sets of books. We could say it till we're blue in the face, and people repeat this nonsense. I don't know. Maybe we should all wear T-shirts or something.
Preliminary August operating expenses before depreciation were below forecast by $12.3 million for the month and $45.5 million year-to-date. That's 1.1% lower. The year-to-date result was due mostly to underruns in fringe benefits, energy costs, and overtime from strict management controls, as well as controls on materials and supplies. Ridership, our August 2010 ridership totaled 185.3 million, 0.3 of a percentage point above forecast, and year-to-date ridership was at 1.527 billion, or 0.1% below the forecast. Average weekday subway ridership in August was 4.8 million, an increase of 2.5% from 2009. Average weekday local bus ridership in August was 2 million, a decrease of 1.4% from 2009. Average weekday express bus ridership in August was 40,000, a decrease of 3.1% from 2009. And average weekday paratransit ridership in August was 29,000, an increase of 5.4% from 2009. Preliminary September 10 financial results. Preliminary September total fare box revenue of $285.7 million was $3.2 million, or 1.1% above forecast. Excluding the favorable timing of fare media expiration revenue of $5.2 million, the remaining fare box revenue was unfavorable to forecast by $2 million, primarily due to lower bus ridership. Preliminary September operating expenses were under forecast by $18.4 million, 4%, due primarily to non-labor cost underruns.
Have you been able to extrapolate the lower bus ridership to the service cuts that happened in June at all? Or?
First of all, we did project that some ridership would be lost with those service cuts, and preliminary looks show that that's in line with our projections. But we're just looking now. Do we get down to the actual bus-by-bus detail? It's still pretty early, and we're still looking at that.
Good morning. Looking to capital, our year-to-date awards are reached $1.3 billion. That's 98% of our plan year-to-date. The three most significant projects for August included a vehicle purchase and buses for 90 40-foot low-floor CNG buses to be used system-wide, a funding piece for the in-house track program for both rail and mainline track maintenance, and an FTA-funded project for the construction of an intermodal bus facility adjacent to Gun Hill Road Station on the White Plains Road line. Commitments for the month, we achieved over $300 million in projects substantially completed in August, the most significant being the Sonnet, which many of you have heard us talk about over the years, the synchronous network, which is our core backbone for all communications, was achieved in August as per our mitigation plan that we described last year. And also the power substation at Dyckman and a tunnel lighting project on the F line between West 4th and Manhattan and Bergen Street in Brooklyn. That completes my report.
Thank you, Fred. On some of the weekend disruptions because of signals and track, how are we doing on the bus operations to transport people, or what sort of a grade would you give yourself on?
Joe Smith could give you more details, but both he and I, these are the most comprehensive and detailed bus shuttles we've run in my entire career. We've had 3 weekends where the number of bus shuttles that Joe had to run across all three of his organizations was significant. The level of service provided never equates to what you can carry with a train, and we have had sporadic complaints from a number of different areas, but by and large those weren't endemic across the system. The service that was provided on the bus side was relatively good, and he's done a very good job of trying to get the buses from the closest location to minimize the run on and run off time so that we can get the maximum utilization out of the bus.
Any questions on the operating report before we move on to capital? Okay, Michael?
Yes. I'm going to start with the Fulton Street Transit Center. It's moving well. We have now, in effect, progressed extensively the installation of the superstructure for the Day Street entry point, as well as we're progressing with the MEP work. The sidewalk that was disturbed, the sidewalk replacement work on the west side of Broadway is progressing on schedule. We have completed the erection of the structural steel in the east mezzanine of the AC train, and we expect to complete the west mezzanine by the end of this year. That means that what we did is we removed the middle columns, and now actually we transfer the loads, and it's a clear span across. The Con Ed work at the 13050 William Street is moving well, and we are able to mitigate the various issues, and we expect to open it in May as scheduled. We also completed the grouting to stabilize the Cortlandt Street R station southbound, as well as we're going to be starting the work on the track realignment. The number 7 line, we received bids on schedule for the Site J, and this is the main entrance to the future 34th Street station for 109. The low bidder was 116 million, about 20%, a little higher than 20% above the engineer's estimate, and the contract was awarded this month to Yonkers Contracting. On October 7, we have also received bids for the Site K, core and shell, again significantly below the engineer's estimate in our budget. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just misspoke. It was below 20%, and here we are below probably about 40% the engineer's estimate. All our work is extremely competitive in bids. The last one, I think we had about 10 or 12 bidders, and although the lowest bidder actually claimed a mistake, even the bids just behind it are quite competitive. They are all bunching up quite well. So we expect at this point to award the contract on the Site K after we going through a lot of both technical as well as other issues in order to be able to award it.
And J. Michael, I'm sorry, when do we expect to award J?
Probably in November sometime. That's about it. On this one, I would like to actually move to Second Avenue. That is a little more complicated.
Okay, just one question on 7. We were going to have some sort of an assessment. I thought it was this fall.
Okay.
On where we are versus the budget. How's that going?
Okay. Well, what happens is we have originally expected to give out a risk assessment to a firm following the receipt of the bids on these various sites. Now that we have done that, we have actually planned with a firm doing the work, and they will be available to start on November 8th to do the risk assessment for both schedule and budget.
So by the November committee meeting, we will have that to discuss?
Definitely not. The November meeting is on the 15th. They don't do a risk analysis in 7 days. So that's not something that I can provide you with in such a short notice. Excuse me? Most probably my guess is going to be in January.
I really don't think that's acceptable. We had said we were going to have something on this year. We're paying these people pretty well. I would think they could get a risk assessment done so we could get it presented in December.
Well, we will strive to do that. There are very few firms that do that, and therefore the competition is limited. And it's not that they're charging us that much. It's just that these are small, relatively small boutique firms in general, or if there's a large firm, they have a boutique practice in that. So sometimes we depend on them, and at this point we are employing actually the 3 that do that throughout the country. So
well, this is a large, important client, so I would hope they'd be able to...
I will do my best to convince them of that.
Okay. I'm happy to help you in the persuasion department if you need assistance. Two things I also wanted to mention. In looking at the CPOC committee book, there are a couple of numbers in here that maybe I'm not understanding them, but they don't seem to be squaring with what we have here. For example, budget bid and contingency for the Site L is listed in here at 62.5, and in the CPOC book it says 65.5. Similarly, in Fulton Street, the R Station Underpass and Day Street Concourse, they have listed at $25 million, and here it's $17.2 for the current contract bid and award. Could you just look at these and make sure we reconcile them?
Yes, definitely we will.
There are a lot of numbers flying around here, and we're all trying to keep track of them.
It's and I cannot answer it now.
Okay.
We'll look at it and get back to you.
Second Avenue?
Second Avenue, the TBM mining is right now just under 78th Street. And we have another, in effect, 13 blocks to go. It's moving not as fast as we had expected it. The ground condition that we are encountering giving us some problems. The type of rock, the quality of the rock that we are seeing is slowing us down somewhat. At this point, we believe that we will be, in effect, be able to complete this run by February, and then we're going to pull back the machine and start the next run on the east tube.
When you say complete the run, you mean to
65th, yeah. We have never intended to go beyond. The last two blocks will be shooting blast.
Had we taken borings in this area? So do we have any clues about the soil conditions?
We have borings, but it turns out that in this area we are having, in general, our borings are pretty accurate. Just as an idea that when we change from a 3-track to a 2-track tunnel, the alignment in certain areas changed somewhat upwards. So that could be a reason for that. We installed a lot of steel segments in throughout the tunnel to support it. We had some water infiltration. I mean, we are seeing issues that slowed us down somewhat, and they are. And this is something that, we are on the ground. You're not always able to predict. We're not low enough to be able to say, like on the east side axis where we are 140 feet below, the rock is uniform. Here the rock is not as uniform. So we are dealing with that properly as we move ahead and safely. And this is the main thing here, is that we must do the job in a safe manner.
So how far are we moving each day, roughly, versus what our estimate was?
Right now, the average is about 40. In the last couple of months, I think we were averaging around 40 feet a day.
We had thought we were going to do 50 or 55, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes, indeed. Excuse me? That's correct. Okay, so that's that. We need to stop many times to do a lot of preventive maintenance to the machines, and we had sometimes problems because of the rock, the piece of rock that are being carried on. They seem to create problems for our conveyor belts. So then it stops, and it rips the conveyor belt, and then we have to replace things. So it's not it's not working out as smoothly as one expected, but is moving forward. And I think that we are actually, the job is progressing according to what we have. So you can't sometimes these are things that you cannot necessarily move forward any faster than we are. The bid opening for the reconstructed 63rd Street is scheduled for November 12th. So next time when I'm here, I will be able to report on that. The 96th Street structure contract tenants that were allocated on Phase 2 building stabilization is near completion at 1873. This is the other leaning building that had two commercial tenants, Dunkin' Donuts and Subway. They are back. We are actually, over the weekend, we have completed the work, was done actually within a 3-week period, and they are now, I think, resupplying, and they're expected to open this week. And by November 6 or 7, if I'm correct, the residents, Bob, will be moving back as well. The 72nd Street Cavern mining contract was awarded to joint venture of Chavon Shea Kiewit, and that's on October 1st. There are a couple of issues, just so to bring you up to date on the fragile buildings.
It was awarded. What was the amount?
400 and actually, the total is 447, but there are $16 million in there that are put in as an option because of some work. So the total is 431 plus 16.
And what was our estimate?
Our estimate?
Yeah. Where did we think this was going to come in?
About 487 or something like that.
And did that include this option, or
Yeah,
was
yeah,
that
everything.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as the fragile buildings, we have 225 fragile buildings that have been identified for the length of the corridor. At this point, 8 of them has yet to be surveyed, and this is primarily due to our inability for the moment to get the landlord to allow us to come in. The majority of the buildings actually that we found problematic are really in the northern part, where we're actually doing a cut and cover. By the way, on the 63rd and 86th Street, at this point we have seen only 10 buildings that we're looking at in more in depth to determine the amount of work needed, and we expect to. In effect, have all of the information ready in terms of design, and we're vetting the design, making sure that we are not doing things that we should not be doing, and it's progressing well.
And we have our own special contractor advising us on this. We're no longer using. Weren't we going to hire a specialist on this?
Yes, what we did is actually we moved away from our general consultant contract, and we retain a different firm that are specializing in this area, and they are actually doing the work for the 86th and 63rd Street. They were under, in effect, this firm. There are a number of firms that we had under an indefinite quantity contract. They were one of them, and work is moving well. And actually, in that area, we expect to do whatever contracting needs we're going to have. We're going to do it with different contractors than the one that we have on the specific pieces of the job. I would like actually to brief you now on 2 topics. One of them, I'm sure that we all heard it, was the gas shutdown at the Housing Authority project up around 99th Street. There was an error on the part of the foreman. There is a utility foreman that, in fact, used a key to turn off or turn on the water at a hydrant, and it turns out that key also fit the gas line that Con Ed had there. The interesting part is that the contractors, our contractors, because they're not allowed to touch the gas mains, do not carry keys that fit the gas mains. Yet, I guess some of the heads on the gas valves have been changed or adjusted, and now they fit.
The same as a water valve?
Yes. Listen, I can tell you that I've seen in the past. Well, in the past they used to be round with two little slots, so one would not fit the other. This is something that I'm getting reports now, and we will be speaking to Con Ed. It used to be a fail-safe mechanism. You didn't have the key, you couldn't open it. Turns out that now it's a little different. So, but in any event, the contractor took full responsibility for it. We provided the 108 tenants with debit cards for Shop 2nd Avenue for the 12 days that they were without gas. And it varied anywhere between $240 to $480 per unit, depending on the number of occupants, if it was 1 or more than 4.
So the gas is back on, and they're able to use their stoves.
The gas is back on already for 1 week. It was done ahead of schedule. It's one of those things that, if anything, the maintenance, I would refer, this is one, in a way, is good because it provided the Housing Authority the opportunity to replace valves and whatever risers needed to. So It was not terrific for the people there, but hopefully the contractor was able to compensate them for whatever happened. One of the other things that I would like to discuss, and for this I have a short presentation, is what we expect to do along 2nd Avenue as becoming better neighbors to the people that we inconvenience with our work on a daily basis.
We will pay very close attention to this, because that is not a fun place to live and work right now. So I'm glad we're taking these extraordinary steps. They're certainly needed.
And one of the things that we are doing is, in fact, we are upgrading the conditions along the construction site to make sure that certain things are happening, and we are creating a better environment for pedestrians. We like to improve the experience of the pedestrians so they can basically navigate the area, that we are, in effect, helping the businesses in the area to accommodate their customers. As well as in this particular case, we expect to use cleanliness as being a very important thing. Construction sites normally are not known for their neatness and cleanliness. And while this is, when you have a 9 to 12 months contract, that's okay in a way. We are going to be there for the next 6 years. So we have to make sure that we're going to be good neighbors, since we're building in front of everyone's living rooms. Next. Yes.
On the previous slide, it mentioned repairing sidewalks. Are these repairs regardless of whether MTA caused the problem, or just you're going to go through the whole range of streets that you're...
Wherever we are impacting it, and I'll show you what the things that we expect to do. I mean, examples, and then we expect to have one specific block that we are doing first, and this is between 92nd and 93rd, that we're going to make that as a model block, and we're going to continue beyond that. But here's a good example of existing and planned. If you look there to the corner on the left side, there is a bulging fence. Well, this is our site, by the way. Our contractor occupies that site, and it's bulging in about a foot and a half. If you look at the wall here, it is made out of a variety of fences. So it's kind of a patchwork, and that is not acceptable. The idea is that what we'll do here, we will actually make sure that we are cleaning up, lining up things, and when you look at the sidewalk, in this particular case, if we need to, and that's what we're showing here, and I'm not suggesting that everyone needs that, we may put in a wooden sidewalk just to make sure that it's kept level. Next. That's another example, and this is actually, you can see that, number one, there are kind of in front of the stores, we have kind of steps or stoops, whatever you want to call them, and these steps actually cut into the width of 7 feet, because you have to negotiate just around it. Again, the idea here is that what we want to make sure is that we are creating that. We're going to take the fence. The fencing is irregular, high, low. That's going to change, as well as we're going to make sure that the signage is both comprehensive and it will have a pattern that people were able to understand. Next. On the other side, we have a variety of jersey barriers painted whatever the way they came from another job, sometimes broken. The fencing is, again, the variety of fencing that you can get. And here what we're going to do, we're going to take also a page from what we did in the Fulton Transit, in which we're providing uniformity. We're going to put some signage showing people, we want to encourage the shop 2nd Avenue, as well as showing people how this station is going to look like. Things that will actually showcase what we do. We are showcasing what, kind of a messy construction site. Well, we want to showcase something different, and this is kind of idealized. Someone took an artistic license to put flowers at the bottom, but that's neither here nor there. We'll make it uniform. Next. One of the things that we're having is at the edge of every block, we're going to put in a uniform signage telling people what they expect to find on that block, which businesses, so people will be able to understand what we're doing. Next. At night, it's kind of pretty dark, and there are a variety of reasons. Some of it is lack of light. And forget about the type of lighting that is being shown here. What was that? Forget. It is dark when there's no lights. Right. Well, but it's particularly tough because in many locations we have not only we have the fencing, but we have the shed above it. By the time you do that, you create a dark tunnel, totally uninviting for anyone to be there. We expect to change that. Next. We specialize in crooked lines sometimes. We're going to make sure that they're straight. And as well as we're going to make sure that the pavement is rideable. Some of the pavement we just put patches and then expect people to do well with that. I have one of the examples that I'm out there now, actually on a weekly basis, talking to people, and I think I'm not sure we have here, but I visited with an assisted living facility that we have actually cut back the sidewalk to 7 feet. In the process of doing that, because of the slope and how the sidewalks work, we created a curb reveal that is like 6 inches for people that are supposed to be able to get down and step down and get into a cab. So these are the things that we are looking. I'm looking at the ADA in the corners to make sure that people can get down it. There are certain standards for it. So next. So the bottom line is we are creating a good neighbor standard. And we expect to keep it throughout the construction zone. We're going to replace the bent and worn fencing, paint barriers, upgrade sidewalk surface, wayfinding signage. We're going to do the crosswalks that will have to be repainted. Safe sidelines for pedestrians. I have pictures when people come to the edge and they have to kind of like in the subway, they have to kind of look to see if there are any trucks coming. And with full access to businesses and residences. So, and part of it is to make sure that the contractor complies with our specs, as well as the ADA compliance with sidewalk slopes and heights. Next, I think is done. Right.
Michael, how much budget have you allocated for all of this?
The budget for it is, at this point, I don't expect to spend additional money. I expect to make sure that the contractors are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if there is any expenditures are going to be minimal.
And can you give everyone assurances that the fly problem that people were talking about because contractors were not cleaning up after themselves at the end of the day, that's going to get resolved? It was like the plagues of Job. We had rats and then flies.
I know. Well, okay. I actually happened to be there at least I think it was the day after. I mean, when something said about flies, and I was walking and I couldn't find the flies. But I'm serious. I mean, it seems like the flies, the locusts next, and so forth. So I don't know, but we'll make sure that the place is clean. We cannot make sure that actually the tenants themselves do not deposit trash in a unsightly manner, because that has happened as well. I'm not going to go there. We're going to make sure, though, from our perspective, that the contractor is going to clean after themselves. I, quite frankly, doubt that we created the flies because we primarily take out muck. We don't do much more than that. So at this point, but we'll we're there, so therefore we're going to make sure that when we're there, things work well. We are right now put together a task force to do this job. We're involving the merchants as well, various people in the various departments at MTA, and there's more to come. This is just the beginning.
Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, thank you very much. And is it time for procurements?
Procurements. The procurement package this month includes 14 actions for New York City Transit totaling $242 million. An additional 15th item was added to the procurement package by letter, seeking approval to purchase the Help Point intercoms for the 2 pilot stations that we showed you last month and talked about at 23rd Street and Brooklyn Bridge for a total cost of $220,000. I ask for your approval for all actions in the agenda.
Okay, let's have a motion first and then... Okay, any questions on any items? Yes.
Tom, have you decided on the camera option for the help points?
No. And the idea is to purchase, at least for the test, ones that are camera ready and then evaluate them. But in terms of the final decision, in terms of design and functionality, that will await the results of the pilot program itself, including the cameras.
Thanks.
Any other questions on any of the other procurements? There's one on 2nd Avenue Subway for asbestos removal in a basement at one of the buildings on 87th Street. And we're going to make sure, Michael, that these folks are hopefully going to have heat and we won't have a gas problem on our hands like we did on 99th Street.
Definitely we will. By the way, that actually they are, if I remember correctly, we are providing the funds. They are actually doing the design and the work, I think.
What is the justification for us to pay for asbestos removal in a private building? And the owner is doing construction there shortly or about this time anyway.
The reason for that is that we are actually taking space, and due to the space that they're taking, they have to relocate their heating pipes. So in the process, now they will have to do some asbestos abatement. So we are actually the cause for that. They should have done it anyway, but that's besides the point.
It surprised me that it wasn't at least a shared cost, but I guess when eminent domain is involved, it becomes our tab. Any other questions? Okay, could I have a vote to move this? Okay, thank you. And we have an action item?
I have one. Yes, it's the one for number 7. Where we are issuing a modification to establish new and intermediate milestones for the number 7 in order to be able to meet the December 31st, 2013, or make it possible at least to meet that. And we are actually issuing a change to establish an disincentive for the contractor and to complete the amount of work that's needed in order to vacate the site earlier so we can then bring in another contractor. The disincentive is for $1.5 million. The incentive is $600,000. This is the maximum either side, and it was negotiated and accepted by the contractor.
And this works pretty well, this disincentive situation in making sure people get to milestones. Have you found in your experience?
Yes, indeed. What happened here is that the contractor that was doing the tunneling, in the process of doing the work, they actually were able to be about close to 6 months ahead. And what we did here, number one, we locked the time, plus we got additional concessions from the contractor to advance even further the work and vacate the site. And if they would just finish on that date, the way it was done, they would get nothing. They will have to actually advance the work faster to make the incentive. And if they actually do not meet that date that they have actually already earned, there will be a disincentive of up to $1.5 million.
Okay. Vote to move this on to committee? All in favor? Okay, it moves. Service changes.
There are a number of items we're bringing to the committee for information purposes only. They relate to some general schedule changes that we normally do in anticipation of the seasonal changes and the picks that go into effect at that time of the year, as well as responding to complaints from customers as a result of some of the other service changes instituted earlier in the year. And the last one is the reinstitution of a former bus routing in Brooklyn through the Metrotech complex, now that a number of issues in terms of security have now changed and we're able to go back to the former routing. Peter Caffiero is here to discuss if anybody wants any information regarding the details on those, but they're information purposes only.
Are there any questions or comments? The maps are in the book.
We're not talking about the East Bronx ones now? Or we are?
The
We can if you've got any questions
Bronx
on them.
one there, yeah. Nope. No questions.
Just wondering, is it open to everything now? Okay. So on the restoration of country club service, which is a great thing, the reason is strictly fiscal that you're only going to run it every half hour, Peter?
Correct. Well, first,
And demand. The demand requirement is once you split the route in terms of the service that required at the north end, which is the country club end, versus the south end, there was an ability to be able to tailor the service specific to the needs and still end up in the same general ballpark of savings that we were trying to accrue.
That's really is more like a suburban area where you don't need the types of headways that you see on a city bus, number one. And it's not actually a restitution of the existing service because I think it's terminating at Pelham Bay Park and then coming back rather than going down Westchester Avenue.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah, the half hour is within our guidelines, both in terms of frequency and what the ridership on that segment is. As was mentioned, the other segments on the route before resulted in more frequent service.
And one of the complaints we saw, there were people up on that section saying the bus service was too frequent. They were going down these streets too often. So, we tried to tailor the response.
When do you ever hear that?
Bus service
Yeah.
is too frequent.
If you live in a residential neighborhood that doesn't have an arterial street, you can understand some people's concerns if they see buses going by not fully loaded. So that literally is a fine-tuned response to complaints and comments we received when we made the first change.
Special presentations, anything you want to mention on these? No? Okay. They were in the book. Hopefully everyone had a chance to look at them. Any final questions? Okay, motion to adjourn. All in favor?